loves. Welcome back to another episode of the thebisfor podcast. I'm your host, Bravia. And today, the B is for break. Sometimes we need to break in order to rebuild. Sometimes we need to break down old ways, old habits, old thought patterns in order to grow. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes looking in the mirror is difficult. And that's actually what I want to talk to you all about today, because I have done that lately. A lot of looking in the mirror, which I think is natural given that I literally have a podcast about self-understanding. So I do have to take the time to understand myself. Crazy concept, but I guess it's a thing I have to do. I don't know. But I've been doing it. And I wanted to be a little bit vulnerable to start off this conversation because I think it's important to share that I am just another human being figuring this stuff out too. And something that I've been navigating a lot lately is where my trust issues stem from. And I also want to preface that by saying I am not someone who was willing to admit that I even had trust issues. I was very much so of the opinion, like, no, I'm still trusting. Like, I still see the world in a good way, still give people chances, etc. And I think that's because deep down at my core, I know that's true about me. But I think the way that I show up now, based on my lived experiences and the things that I've gone through, I show up differently than like who I truly am at my core. And I want to get back to who I am at my core. So I had to unpack like where these trust issues come from. And at first I was like, does it stem from like my parents and like when I'm younger and like my family situation? And the reality of that is no. I do not have parents that I felt like I couldn't trust. If anything, I truly did trust my parents. So I'm like, doesn't stem from that. Doesn't feel like a deep childhood wound or something. And so I started to reflect. I'm like, where is this coming from? And then once I actually dug into where it's coming from, then I had to realize my role in it. So let's talk about where it came from. I think that the first love that you have in your life is, especially when you were young, is very foundational in how you view partnership with people, how you view companionship, how you view friendships and romantic love, because you should have a combination of both in your initial first love, and also how you view trust. And I think for a long time, I wrote off the things that were done in my first relationship as, oh, we were young, dumb, naive, whatever. But I also think that's kind of discrediting the experiences that I went through. And there's young, dumb, and naive, and there's just straight up diabolical. And while my ex and I are on fine terms, and like I did business with him a few years ago, like we've been broken up for over 10 years, like there's no bad blood. I also do think, and he's aware of this, like this is not going to be new information to him if he decides that he wants to listen to this, but there are things that definitely shape the way that I trust. And I think it kind of perpetuated even to relationships beyond him. When you see someone that you value, someone that you put on a pedestal, someone that you have a lot of love for, lie, manipulate, be dishonest, not come through with their word, have their actions not follow their words, you start to almost normalize it because you have this love for them or because you hold them to this higher regard. Because that exists, you're like, this is maybe typical behavior. Although you know in your heart of hearts it isn't. We've all been there where we choose to see the good in people and not really recognize the depth of the pain they cause. And this isn't to say that he's a bad person. I don't believe that anybody is 100% a bad person. But I do think that people do really shitty things. And all of us do shitty things. I think the caliber of shitty ranges for sure. And some people are pretty shitty people. But it doesn't mean that they're 100% shitty. Just like no one is 100% good. I don't think that anybody is 100% a saint. We've all lied, white lied, done something wrong, but I do think that a lot of us naturally have a good heart posture. And I don't think that he's a bad person, but I do think that he did some pretty shitty things. And it really shaped the way that I view relationships, and not just my relationship with him, but the way that I watched him interact with his friends and the things that they would do and the things that the women around them would also tolerate. And so I'm watching friend groups operate where they're lying on one another, or they're not telling each other the full truth, or they're doing things behind each other's backs, stealing from each other, like doing things that are just plain shitty. And when you start to get swept up in this environment and you start to see it so much, it starts to almost become your baseline. It did become my baseline. And while I wasn't partaking in any of those activities, and I can confidently say that, I still saw it so much that it became more normalized. And then as my relationships progressed, as I evolved, as I got older, the new friend groups that I got into kind of repeated the same patterns. The new relationships that I got into kind of repeated the same patterns. And I wasn't doing it intentionally. It was so subconscious, but it's because I like to think of it as like data. Like all this data that I've collected on how people interact with one another, and what friendship looks like, and what common interests look like. This time in my life was so pivotal in me navigating friendships, human interactions. Like I was building the data for how I think social / communal interactions are supposed to go, because I started dating him when I was 16, 17 years old, right? So like that's right around the time that your mindset starts to shift of like, I'm not a kid anymore. These are like more adult relationships, or these are more chosen friendships. And like, this is the things that I like, and these are the things I don't like. Like you move out of naivety, but you're still actually naive. You just think that you're not. And you start to like operate more as an adult. Therefore, you're really malleable in that time frame of your life, right? And so, and don't worry, I'm also going to get to the part where I am very much so accountable for my own actions and my own decisions. So do not take this as I'm offloading the blame onto the people that I surrounded myself with, because hello, Bria, where's the common denominator in the people you surrounded yourself with? You still chose to hang out with them. So like, do not take this as me offloading by any means. But I say this to say, boom, horrible relationship, cheating, lying, stealing, scamming, a bunch of shit that I saw that I then normalized. Okay. Fast forward, I get into other friend groups, other relationships, and I'm seeing similar patterns, different calibers and different ways. People like a friend group that I had later on lying to each other, talking horribly about one another when the other person wasn't around, very mean comments, mean actions, watching people not follow through with their word, watching people consistently be dishonest, watching people literally lie in your face and then go and do something completely different than what they just told you. Also getting in situations where I'm pulled into a lie that I don't even want to be in. I have a friend group, someone saying, oh, don't tell her this because I'm doing this and blah, 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 and I don't want it to be a certain way. And then all of a sudden I'm stuck between the truth and loyalty to friends who weren't actually loyal to me. So I witnessed so many different things that I thought were normal. And the next thing you know, fast forward years, no longer being in these relationships, no longer having these friendships, no longer running in these circles, and still looking at people like, are they lying? Are they actually going to do what they say they're going to do? Are they being honest? And recently, I realize that I do this sometimes, even though I naturally, like, I think me, my character, me at my core, me and the truth of who I am has a initial desire or bias to trust people. But because of all this lived experience, because of all this data I've collected, and the data is pretty negative, it's like subconsciously wired in my brain to look at people when they are being honest and be like, they're not going to do that. Or are they actually telling the truth? And I will say, like, I do think I have a really good lie detector, but I think my lie detector is good is because I've seen a bunch of fucking liars. For a while, I was like, my lie detector is good. Like, I'm good at this. I have good intuition, and I do have good intuition. But I've also seen a bunch of bullshitters that now I know how to smell bullshit. And I had to pause on that for a second. And I'm like, babes, you have the data. That's why you recognize the patterns when it comes back up. Okay? But then you're also applying the data to situations that you don't need to apply it to because this person isn't actually lying. And you're the one with the trust issues, and you're the one projecting your own experiences onto them, and that's not fair. And so I had to sit with myself recently and be like, all right, I feel this way. Why do I feel this way? Boom, unpacked it, figured out where it stemmed from, where it came from. And then I was like, all right, let me take it a step deeper. I have trust issues because of my experiences. Why did I choose to stay in these situations? Why did I choose to replicate these relationships, even though it was subconscious choices, right? Why did I choose to keep doing it? There's a role from me in this. And I think a lot of it was because on the other side of your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. It's like a coin. And one of my greatest strengths is my empathy. My mom is one of the most empathetic people I've ever met in my life. She will give you the clothes off her back and she will know you for 2 seconds. If she thinks that you are in a circumstance that is more difficult than the one that she is currently facing, or even if she thinks her circumstances are more difficult, but she thinks you're in need, she will literally give you whatever you need. She will take care of you. She will bring you in. She will clothe you. She will feed you. My freaking best friend in high school lived with us for 2 years. Like, my mom has always taken such good care of the people around us. There is never a no from my mother. Like, she loves so deeply and cares for people so deeply, and I truly am my mother's daughter. That is not just a choice, although it is upbringing, although it is positive conditioning that I've gotten my entire life. It is also embedded in me as my DNA. My DNA is hers. Like, that is something that I, to my core, am. And a lot of it comes from my mom. The other side of that coin, though, is being a fixer. Seeing people in need, seeing people in different circumstances, seeing people who don't love themselves, seeing people who are hurt, seeing people who have had bad experiences, and wanting to fix them. And not even realizing you're doing it. But you have all this empathy, you have all this care that you're like, I can fix them. I can show them what a good friend looks like. I can show them what a good partner looks like. I can show them that people are kind. I can show them that they can be loved. I can show them, I can do this, I can fix this, I can do that. And like, part of that is, of course, coming from a genuine place because you have all this empathy. But the other part of that is also me recognizing that in my own insecurity, I wanted people to choose me. I wanted people to be like, Bria showed up for me, therefore she's my best friend. Or Bria took care of me, or Bria held me down when things were not going well. So I'm gonna choose her to be my girl because of all the shit that she did for me. And I had it so misconstrued that like I deserve to be chosen, period, just for who I am, not just what I do for people. But because I'm so empathetic and because I want to do things for people, I take it to the extreme, or I used to take it to the extreme, especially because I didn't have a strong sense of self-worth at that time because I wasn't as secure as I am now. And so some of it really was seeking validation without even me realizing it. And I wanted to be chosen by people who don't even know how to choose themselves. I stayed in these situations because of that. And also, I stayed in these situations because I didn't have new data to work off of. And what I mean by that is I didn't have lived experiences of things that are better, or enough lived experiences of things that are better or things that are different. Not saying just better, just things that are different, in order for me to move differently. And sometimes I think that we think that those lived experiences either don't exist or that they're just going to fall in our lap. And I promise you, neither of those thought processes or assumptions is true. Promise you. One, the life that you want is not going to fall in your lap. You have to go get it. That also means the relationships that you want. That also means the trust that you want, the love that you want, all this stuff, it's not going to fall in your lap. You have to go get it, and it starts with you. The second thing is that you think these other lived experiences don't exist because all you've had is one. And there's a quote by Maya Angelou, and she says, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Right? If you have eaten a pescatarian diet your entire freaking life, and then all of a sudden one day you're introduced to steak, and then you start to realize all the health benefits of having more protein or having a different type of protein, you wouldn't have known that if you were never introduced to steak, because all you've known is eating a pescatarian diet. But there may be way more in store for you, and this is such an analogy. Like, my health freaks, I get it. There's controversy about red meat, whatever. This is not the time or place for this discussion. But what I'm saying is, if you are very used to one way of doing things, one lived experience, because it's all you've had exposure to, then I can't knock you for not knowing what you don't know. But where I can knock you is not trying to know more. We should always try to know more. And I think that's why diversity is so important. It is so important to diversify your experiences. It is so important to diversify the ways that you think. It's important to diversify the people around you. It's important to diversify the things that you read, the things you consume. Like, if you are only doing one thing one way always, how do you even know for sure that that is aligned to who you are? That's why I nerd out about science, because a science experiment has a hypothesis and then you test it a ton to see if it's actually true. Sometimes we just accept truth as truth because we haven't even tested it. You got to test it. You got to get different experiences. If I just stuck with the friend groups that I was in and thinking that those interactions are normal, and thinking that people being liars and manipulators and moving shiesty is normal, then I would be in a totally different situation than I'm in right now. But it's because I actively made choices to change my environment. I moved all the way across the country. I got exposure to new people with new perspectives, with different backgrounds, with different approaches, with different personalities, who come from different places than me. And they showed me an entire world that I was unfamiliar with, that I am now familiar with because of the exposure, because of the experience that not only they gave me from interacting with me, but that I gave myself by making the choice to do it. Your reality is your reality. It is not the reality. If you and I are sitting on a train, and you are sitting on one side of the train and I am sitting on the other, and the window looking outside on your side is a canyon, and the window looking out my side is just a mountain wall. No view, but you have a whole view. We're on the same train, but we are experiencing completely different realities, because I am just looking at a rock wall and you are looking at a canyon with greenery and trees and lush. And some may argue, oh, same reality. But you and I are experiencing completely different things, even though we're sitting on the same train, going to the same place. A lot of it is what you perceive, the experiences that you get, and it shapes your reality, but it's not the reality. I hear people say, like, everyone is doing this. No. Everyone around you is doing that. Not everyone is doing that. I used to be in these friend groups where they'd be like, we all do this. We all act like this. Everyone is acting like this. And it's like, actually, no. Not everyone in the world is shitty and doing shitty things. It's just this group that's doing it, but it feels like everyone because it's who you're surrounding yourself with. I think about, I drive down these beautiful roads in these gorgeous neighborhoods with these massive houses and all this greenery, and I'm looking around and I'm like, this is someone's reality. Why can't this be my reality? They are another human being too. And we don't have to get into their starting point and all the things. Like, yes, some people have more privilege and some people come from different backgrounds than others. But yes, it may take me a more difficult path to get there, but it doesn't mean that I can't do that. If I'm seeing it, I don't see why I can't be it. If I'm seeing people love one another, if I'm seeing communities in other countries treat each other with such kindness, take care of one another, just because that's not the reality here in the US or here in the neighborhood that I live in doesn't mean that it can't exist and doesn't exist elsewhere and isn't something that I can make happen in my life. But the reason why we don't achieve the things that we truly want is, one, we don't know that we want them because we haven't been exposed to them enough. And two, we think that it's so far out of reach when it's actually very close to you. And three, sometimes we just don't think enough about why we do what we do. And all of this thought process literally started with, where do my trust issues stem from? One question, a little introspection, a little bit of thought about why I do what I do and why my brain works the way that it works. And next thing you know, I'm uncovering all these things that not only I tolerated and learned, but also grew from, evolved from, and have all these mindsets around. Traveling is one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life because it's given me all this new perspective that I never had before. I saw people operate and move in ways that people around me had not moved and operated in. And I've seen different paces in life, different races in life, different ethnicities, ages, genders, socioeconomic status. I've seen different sexualities. I've seen different religions. And all of this experience, all of this data that I've collected has helped me better inform myself on what matters to me, on who I am, and what I want my character to be like, and how I want to show up in the world. I've had incredible examples and I've had very shitty examples. If you want to get new outcomes in life, you have to get new experiences. If you don't like the things that are in your reality right now, find ways to collect new data. Find ways to get more lived experience. I'm thankful for the people who welcomed me with open arms, who gave me new experiences. And I'm thankful for me making the choice to step in and embrace them. Goes two ways. You have to seek too. And if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you don't know what you don't know, do something to learn something new and give yourself a new experience. If you feel like there's certain things that you're thinking or ways that you're operating where you're like, why am I like this? Why does my brain do that? Dig in, ask yourself questions, and then follow where the questions take you. Diversity is so important. I cannot emphasize it enough. There are going to be people that you fundamentally disagree with on things, and you can still love them and have love for them. You don't have to be their best friend. You don't have to agree with everything that they do. You don't have to walk alongside them in every instance. But I think we can all find love in our hearts for people, even if they are different from us. I have friends who literally have all different religious beliefs: Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, Catholic, Jewish, atheist, agnostic. I literally have friends who believe all different things and I love them all the same. Why? Because they have their decision-making power and they have data that they've collected that is on them to collect and live with, as do I. And as long as their belief system doesn't hinder our relationship, as long as they morally are not doing things completely misaligned with my moral compass, my integrity, my character, I can love them, even though I don't agree with how they view every single thing. And that is on getting lived experiences and learning that I can love them. If you told me that 10 years ago, I would have maybe looked at you crazy because of my belief system back then. And so all this to say, your reality is your reality. Sometimes you need to break what you know in order to build the best version of yourself, in order to build the foundation of what truly matters to you. And ultimately, that foundation helps set up who you are at your core. I encourage you to get new data. I encourage you to expand. I encourage you to lean in. I encourage you to find new experiences, collect it, and then evaluate it. You may get data that you don't like, and that's fine. At least you have the data. It's better than not having it at all. And I think for me, being vulnerable, there are parts of my life, there are seasons of my life where I made decisions, where I hung out with people, where I did things that I'm not proud of. And I think that that's the case for a lot of people. And if you think that's not the case for you, then I don't know how you're human. That's who we are. We stumble, we mess up, we do stupid things, we learn from them. Most importantly, we learn from them. And when we know better, we do better. At least when I know better, I do better. And I hope that you do the same. So, your reality is yours. Yours. Just because, quote unquote, everyone is doing it doesn't mean everyone is doing it. It just means everyone around you is doing it. If everyone around you works a 9 to 5 and you want to be an entrepreneur, then you might need to get in a new room, collect new data, get new experiences. If everyone around you is a certain religion and you have questions, collect new data, get new experiences, and make sure that through it all, you give yourself grace and you love people. Give love to people. Even if you don't fully understand it, give love to people. We need more of that in this world. And give love to yourself. That's a part of having grace for yourself. So, sometimes we got to break things in order to build. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you as always. Like, comment, subscribe, follow the show. If you want one-on-one consulting with me, I'm offering a limited amount of spots to be able to work with some people one-on-one because it is my passion and I would love to work with you if it feels like it's the right fit. So go to my website. If you go to the services page, scroll to the bottom, there's a form that you can fill out. It takes 5 minutes. When you fill out that form, I'll reach out to you and we can talk about how I can support you in this next chapter of your life. Until then, thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks.